entire continent and country don't really want Harry and Meghan to visit. This is one of, I think, the biggest rebukes the couple have had on their cosplay royal tours, where at least 35,000 people have signed a petition in Australia to go, no, we don't want to pay for these two.
Here's something unfolding right now that really highlights the tension around Prince Harry and Meghan Markle's life after stepping away from royal duties. The deeper this story goes, the clearer it feels. This isn't just about one planned trip to Australia. It reflects a pattern that's been building over the last 5 or 6 years. There's a growing perception that decisions haven't always landed well, and expectations haven't always matched public reaction. Yet somehow, the assumption still seems to be that major announcements will be met with excitement and open arms. So here's what actually happened. Harry and Meghan revealed plans for a visit to Australia, with Meghan expected to give a speech. The announcement came about a month in advance, presented in a way that suggested anticipation and enthusiasm would follow. But the response? Completely different. Instead of excitement, a petition quickly gained traction. Over 35,000 people signed to express that they didn't support the visit, especially if public funds were involved. That's a strong and very visible reaction.
And this just reflects how much people dislike them.
Now, sure, 35,000 might not sound huge compared to Australia's population of over 26 million, but here's what matters. Getting that many people to engage with any petition is no small thing. Most barely reach a few hundred signatures. The fact that tens of thousands took the time to formally voice their opinion sends a clear message. Whether people agree or not, it shows just how strongly some feel about this situation. That reaction, it says a lot. But what really made this situation stand out was how Prince Harry and Meghan Markle handled it, because they didn't just ignore the petition or stay quiet, they responded, and not in a way people expected. Instead of brushing it off, their team pushed back directly, defending the visit and challenging the criticism coming from everyday Australians who were simply questioning whether public money should be involved. Here's what their spokesperson said, and yes, this raised eyebrows. They stated that if someone views the petition as meaningful, then it could also be argued that the rest of Australia, those who didn't sign, must support the visit being funded. That was the logic presented. And that's where things really escalated, because the argument itself came across to many as dismissive. The idea that everyone who didn't sign automatically agrees, that didn't sit well with a lot of people watching this unfold. It felt like a stretch, and it sparked even more discussion. Think about it like this. Just because not everyone speaks up doesn't mean everyone agrees. Silence doesn't always equal approval, and that's a point many critics quickly highlighted. And here's the bigger pattern people are noticing. Whenever criticism builds, the response often adds more attention instead of calming things down. We've seen similar moments before, like the response to commentary around books such as those by Tom Bauer, where responses sometimes amplified the conversation rather than quieting it.
The first one is not a stupid assertion. You're being stupid in this assertion. This is an idiotic response. This is an unprofessional response.
Now, stepping back, the bigger issue here seems to be confusion. There's ongoing public debate about their role. Are they private individuals, public figures, or something in between? That unclear positioning is what keeps fueling reactions like this. Because when expectations aren't clearly defined, every move gets questioned and every response gets examined even more closely. Here's where the tension really sharpens. The criticism isn't just about one trip, it's about perception. Some observers feel that Prince Harry and Meghan Markle still carry the titles and visibility of royalty while no longer operating within the same official structure. From that viewpoint, it creates a complicated image. Working members of the royal family typically follow clear protocols: who funds the visit, what the purpose is, and which official duties are being carried out. That structure has been in place for decades, so when visits happen, there's usually little confusion. But in this case, things feel less defined. Harry and Meghan stepped back from official duties, relocated to the United States, and moved into independent projects, including media partnerships and business ventures. They've made it clear they're building their own path, and that's entirely within their rights. At the same time, their public appearances can still resemble traditional royal tours. Announcements ahead of visits, high-profile events, and global attention naturally lead people to ask questions about how these trips are positioned. And that's where the uncertainty comes in. Are these personal visits, professional engagements, something that sits in between? That lack of clarity is what keeps fueling debate, because people are trying to understand exactly what framework applies. Groups like Republic Australia have weighed in as well, emphasizing that if activities are private or commercial, they should be treated as such. They've also pointed out broader concerns about public spending, especially during times when many households are dealing with rising living costs. And that perspective has resonated with some people. The core of the discussion isn't just about Harry and Meghan specifically, it's about expectations. When public figures operate across different roles, it can blur the lines, and that's when scrutiny naturally increases. At the end of the day, this situation highlights a bigger question that hasn't fully been answered yet. When someone steps away from an official role but remains globally recognized because of it, how should their public engagements be viewed? That question is still hanging in the air, and it's exactly why conversations like this keep gaining momentum. Here's where the debate gets even more intense. Supporters of Prince Harry and Meghan Markle point out that their team has said the trip would be privately funded. According to their spokesperson, the petition doesn't really apply if no public money is being used.
They're cheap. They are cheap people. Meghan wants her very expensive trinket jewelry, but she absolutely does not want to pay for like private jets and stuff. She borrows them, and I understand that. She can do that. But Harry and Meghan want the freebies as much as possible. Part of the reason Meghan left the royal family is that she wasn't allowed to keep her freebies, and she desperately wanted to keep her freebies.
And sure, if that's the case, that's an important detail. But here's the issue people keep coming back to. The fact that so many people were unsure in the first place shows there's a communication gap. When 35,000 people feel the need to ask who's paying, that signals confusion that could have been avoided with clearer messaging from the start. That's where the frustration builds, because over time, critics argue that the messaging around their roles hasn't always been consistent. At times, they present themselves as private individuals, and in other moments, their public appearances still carry the weight and structure of royal visibility. That contrast is what keeps raising questions. And people are noticing more now than before. This Australia situation isn't being viewed in isolation. It's being seen as part of a wider pattern, a pattern where public perception and intended messaging don't always align, which leads to stronger reactions each time something new comes up. There's also a shift worth pointing out. When Harry and Meghan first stepped away from royal duties, there was a wave of public sympathy. Many people understood their reasons, especially given the pressures of media attention. Their interview with Oprah Winfrey drew global attention and sparked serious conversations about their experiences. But then, things started to shift. As time passed, different claims and narratives from that period were debated more closely in the media and by the public. Their Netflix documentary also drew mixed reactions, with some viewers feeling it presented only one side of the story rather than a broader perspective. And then came Spare. That book brought even more attention, but not always in the way they might have expected. Some readers focused less on the royal family revelations and more on personal details Harry shared, which sparked conversations about tone, privacy, and how much should be made public. Then there's Spotify. They signed a high-profile deal reportedly worth millions to produce podcast content, but output became a major talking point, especially after a Spotify executive publicly criticized the partnership. That moment stuck because labels like that can shape how people view a brand almost instantly.
Sort of mixed and like bad. Nobody is looking forward to this. Nobody really wants them there. And I think this reflects how poorly Harry and Meghan have managed their last 5-6 years post-Brexit. They have managed things horribly.
And of course, Netflix is still part of the picture. While their projects have drawn global attention, reactions have been mixed. Some viewers were engaged, others expected something different. And that gap between expectation and reception became part of the conversation. Which brings up a bigger question people keep asking. What does their work look like today? They've launched initiatives like the Archewell Foundation with a stated goal of creating positive impact. And while they've spoken about important causes, some critics say they'd like to see clearer, measurable outcomes tied to those efforts. For comparison, public figures like Bill Gates, Dolly Parton, and Ashton Kutcher are often highlighted for highly visible, trackable initiatives that people can easily point to. And that's where the conversation keeps building, because in today's spotlight, perception isn't just about visibility, it's about clarity, consistency, and results people can actually see. These are the kinds of results people can clearly see and measure, and that's where the conversation keeps circling back. What visible outcomes can be directly linked to Archewell? That question keeps coming up. Now, to be fair, building impactful projects takes time, but the discussion isn't really about time, it's about expectations, because Prince Harry and Meghan Markle are often positioned as global voices, advocates, and changemakers, and when that level of influence is part of the image, people naturally start looking for clear, tangible results to match it.
So much more clearly and effortlessly, but they have to make it needlessly complicated because they are so desperate to cling to the titles rather than relying on their own abilities. They rely solely on these titles, and the result is negative backlash. I mean, if I was working with Harry and Meghan, I would tell them, drop the titles, drop the titles. They're not actually helping you.
That's why this Australia situation hits differently. It's not just about one visit, it's being seen as part of a wider shift in how the public views them. There's a growing sense among some observers that strong messaging isn't always matched by equally visible outcomes, and that gap is what keeps fueling debate. And here's where things get even more interesting. Their response to the petition didn't quiet things down. It actually brought more attention to it, because when criticism gets addressed directly, it can signal that the issue carries weight, even if the numbers themselves might seem small compared to a larger population. Now, imagine this from a broader perspective. If public support felt completely solid, a petition like that might not even register as significant, but the fact it sparked a response, that's what people are analyzing. And then comes the bigger question: what would a reset even look like? Some commentators have suggested that stepping further into a clearly defined private role could remove a lot of the ongoing confusion. The use of titles, public appearances, and global branding all blend together in a way that keeps expectations high, and expectations invite scrutiny. Because right now, the situation sits in that same gray zone we keep coming back to. When identity, role, and public image aren't fully aligned, every move gets examined more closely. And that's exactly why moments like this Australia story don't just pass by. They stick, they build, and they keep shaping the narrative in real time. It would shift the focus completely, letting Prince Harry and Meghan Markle be judged on what they actually do, not constantly compared to the institution they stepped away from. That alone could change the tone of the conversation.
And so again, Harry and Meghan invite this by being incredibly, in my opinion, stupid in how they're managing this. They could manage this so much more clearly and effortlessly, but they have to make it needlessly complicated because they are so desperate to cling to the titles rather than relying on their own abilities. They rely solely on these titles.
Another point people keep bringing up: why announce everything so far in advance? Most public figures don't treat international trips like official state visits. If there's an event or a speech, they simply show up, do the work, and let the results speak for themselves. Because right now, early announcements seem to be creating the opposite effect. Instead of building excitement, they're giving critics time to react, organize, and push back. That buildup is what turns a simple visit into a full-blown debate before it even begins. And then comes the biggest point of all. There's a growing call for more clearly defined output, projects, initiatives, or work that people can point to and say, that made a real difference. Whether it's a documentary, a program, or a long-term initiative, visibility alone isn't enough anymore. People want results they can actually measure. Right now, much of their public image is tied to who they are rather than what they produce, and that's where the pressure builds. At the same time, it's important to recognize that public perception is complicated. Once a narrative takes hold, it can be difficult to shift, especially when every move is analyzed from multiple angles. And that leads into another layer of this story. There have been ongoing legal disputes connected to media coverage involving Harry and Meghan, and some recent developments have sparked wider conversations, not just about them, but about how public figures and the press interact in general. This is where things get nuanced. On one side, there's a clear need to protect individuals from false claims and unfair damage to their reputation. That's exactly what defamation laws are designed for. But on the other side, there's also an ongoing discussion about maintaining space for open commentary and scrutiny when it comes to high-profile figures. And that balance, it's becoming a bigger part of the conversation every single day. At the same time, there's another side to this that people are paying close attention to. Public figures, especially ones who stay in the spotlight, naturally face criticism. That comes with visibility. People will analyze decisions, question motives, and sometimes express opinions that aren't flattering. And that's where the line gets important. There's a real difference between unfair claims and legitimate public discussion. When legal boundaries around that start to shift, it raises broader concerns, not just about Prince Harry and Meghan Markle, but about how open conversations around public figures are handled overall. Because here's the reality, high-profile individuals often have significant legal resources. They can challenge coverage or commentary if they believe it crosses a line. But for journalists, creators, or everyday commentators, even the possibility of legal action can feel intimidating. And that's where discussions about free expression come in. This isn't just about one couple, it's about the bigger picture. The ability to question and discuss public figures is a key part of any open society. And when that balance between protection and criticism becomes unclear, people start paying attention very quickly.
And so you do have this sort of facet over here, but Harry and Meghan have also not answered why they should be respected, relied on, or whatever beyond the royal titles. They don't have a really functioning business. Their producing credits are like slim to none and not very good.
Now, bringing it back to Australia, because this is where the story takes an almost full circle turn. Back in 2018, during their royal tour, Harry and Meghan were met with huge crowds and overwhelmingly positive attention. It was seen as a high point, a moment where they represented a fresh and exciting future for the monarchy. Fast forward to now, and the reaction feels very different. Instead of celebration, there's debate. Instead of clear enthusiasm, there are mixed responses and public discussions about their role, their visits, and what it all represents. That contrast is what stands out the most. Some observers see it as a shift shaped by years of decisions, public appearances, interviews, and projects that have gradually changed how they're perceived. Others see it as part of the natural cycle of public opinion. Either way, the difference between then and now is hard to ignore. Because moments like this don't happen overnight, they build over time. And whether people support them or question them, one thing is certain, the conversation around Harry and Meghan isn't fading anytime soon. For a brief moment, it really did look like everything was lining up for Prince Harry and Meghan Markle. The interview with Oprah Winfrey pulled massive global attention, and the deals with Netflix and Spotify signaled huge opportunities. At that point, it genuinely felt like they were about to dominate the global stage. But over time, the momentum didn't quite unfold the way many expected. Some commentators argue that without the structure of the monarchy, things became harder to define. Projects were launched, but reactions were mixed. The initial curiosity around their departure slowly faded, and with it, some of the momentum that carried them forward. And now, moments like the Australia situation are being seen as part of that shift. Instead of major wins, the headlines are often about debates, public reactions, and ongoing questions about direction. And that contrast between expectation and reality is what keeps people talking. Then there's the bigger challenge. Moving forward hasn't been simple. Returning to royal duties isn't on the table, and at the same time, fully stepping into a completely separate identity hasn't been clearly established either. That middle ground is what keeps them tied to the same narrative. Even new projects often get compared back to their royal past, and that makes it harder to reshape public perception because every move gets measured against where they came from, not just where they're going. There's also a human side to all of this. Living under constant public attention, facing criticism, and navigating shifting opinions can't be easy for anyone. Public life at that level comes with pressure from every direction. But at the same time, this situation reflects the reality of high-profile decisions. Once they're made, they shape everything that follows. And right now, the story around Harry and Meghan feels like it's still unfolding, with no clear final chapter just yet.
All this together comes to people want to know why they're doing this. Normal celebrities don't do tours like this unless they're promoting something. Harry and Meghan aren't promoting anything.
This clearly isn't the life Prince Harry and Meghan Markle imagined when they made their exit. It's not the version of freedom many people thought they were stepping into either. And the Australia situation, it's just the latest sign of how public perception has shifted. There's a growing sense among some observers that the early curiosity has faded. The strong wave of sympathy that once surrounded them doesn't feel the same anymore, and reactions are becoming more mixed, more critical, and a lot less forgiving. That shift didn't happen overnight. It built over time through interviews, projects, public appearances, and responses that didn't always land the way they were intended. And until there's a clear change in direction, many believe the same cycle will continue repeating itself. More announcements, more reactions, more debates. And that's why this Australia trip is being watched so closely. People are curious about how it will unfold, what kind of reception they'll receive, how the media will cover it, and whether it will ease the tension or add even more fuel to the conversation. Because one thing is consistent. Whenever Harry and Meghan step into the spotlight, attention follows. But lately, that attention hasn't always been about celebration. It's been about scrutiny, discussion, and ongoing questions about their role and direction. And that's what makes this moment so telling. It reflects where they currently stand in the public eye, not the universally celebrated couple they once were, and not yet the clearly defined global figures they aim to be seen as. Instead, they're navigating a complicated space shaped by past decisions and present expectations. If you found this breakdown interesting and want to stay updated on stories like this, make sure to like, share, and subscribe. Drop your thoughts in the comments. I want to hear what you think about this situation. And stick around because there's always more to uncover. I'll see you in the next one.